Underdog Collectibles is an online shop run for collectors by collectors. Join them every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night as they break new products, talk sports, and hopefully you'll pull a great hit to add to your collection. Visit them at www.udogcollect.com and tell them Wax Pack Hero sent you. Remember, always bet on the underdog. You're listening to the Wax Pack Hero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Summer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Wax Pack Hero Sports Card Minute. Wherever you're at and whenever you're listening to this, I hope things are going well for you. Well, today I'm excited for our guest today. His name is Brett McGrath, and he is the host of the Stacking Slabs podcast. And I first got connected with Brett via TikTok, actually, and he participated or did a duet with one of my videos. We'll talk about that in the interview. And that's how we first got connected, had some conversations here and there throughout the next several weeks, and we just really started to build a relationship. I like his energy, I like his attitude, and he brings a different and unique perspective to the trading card marketplace or the trading card industry, and it's been fun to listen along as he gets excited, as he continues to learn and share his perspectives on buying and selling and collecting cards. So I hope you enjoy the interview with Brett. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off now. Brett, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Mike? Thank you so much for having me. I think right before we started chatting, I was telling you or before we started recording, I was telling you about how excited I am because it's kind of atypical, but being here in Indianapolis, we've got the Indianapolis 500 this morning, so it's always a special time here in the city where I'm from. So excited to do some grilling and hanging out with family and friends to watch that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've only been to one Indy 500 race, and that was back in, I think, 1998. I had a roommate in college who had a relative who was one of the higher ups at the track. And so I had VIP passes, was down on the track right before the race, and hanging out with Jim Neighbors and Florence Henderson and some of the other celebrities at the time. It was a pretty cool experience getting to be in the garages and doing some of that kind of stuff pre-race. It was a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, so you definitely weren't roughing it. And roughing it, for anyone out there who doesn't know, typically involves maybe a night in the Coke lot, a lot of alcohol, maybe a little bit of sleep, but running on fumes, but getting the energy, walking about 1.5 miles around turn 4, walking in and breathing in all the sights and sounds. So unfortunately, that's not going to be a part of this year. But, it's funny, too. It's the first year that the race will be shown live in the city of Indianapolis, which I always go to the race, but and it's always sold out. So I never understood why they do that. But it's going to be a little different, but excited to watch it today. It's always a really, really important time here in Indy.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. It comes at a time where Topps is going to be making cards later this year, and that hasn't happened in quite a while. So it's not just going to be NASCAR cards that we have to collect here in the coming months.
Yeah, and I think too the IndyCar series is, over the last few years, has been looking for those opportunities to extend their brand, expose themselves to new audience. And I think, collecting and with cards, it's a natural fit. And, maybe it's because I live in a bubble and this is my primary racing series that I watch. But with the 500, the personalities they have in the series, and just the way the races go, to me, it always seemed like there was opportunities to get more people turned on to IndyCar. So hopefully there are people who get in through cards. I think getting exposed to anything from racing to wrestling to any other sport through cards is always a good thing for the hobby and for those sports series that are putting out cards.
Let's talk a little bit about your collecting background. What got you started collecting back in the day?
Yeah, so I've always been a collector at heart. I've really collected everything. Growing up, was a collector, during the junk wax era of cards. I started my kind of collecting career really focused on. I was thinking about this actually this week, but I was really focused on Larry Johnson cards. Something about Grandmama when I was younger really grabbed me, and I've always been a Pacers fan, but Larry Johnson was someone, those old Upper Deck series I gravitated into and was obsessed with. So I collected cards at a young age. I'm a massive wrestling fan, so all grew up on pro wrestling. I've got I'm in a room right now full of my kind of wrestling figure museum. Somehow my wife tolerates it, but I've always watched wrestling, collected wrestling. I'm a music guy, so I collect vinyl. So a little bit of a hoarder in me, but there's something about just having, whether it's cards, wrestling figures, or vinyl music. It's always felt to me to be something important, to have that physical copy of whatever it is. And I think just I've always gravitated to, collecting, figuring out how I want to evolve my collection. How do I get there? And obviously there's the sales and the business side to it, whether it's buying and selling. So all of that packaged up together has kind of allowed me to kind of have an escape outside of, regular work in life. And I found it just fascinating, and it's a way to kind of express my passion.
Did you stop collecting cards for a while, or have you collected nonstop since you were a kid?
I wish I collected nonstop, but no, I certainly had a hiatus. And it just kind of vanished. I think it was like around, that tip. You hear a lot of people talk about it, high school and then college, and then you get out of it and life gets busy and you're trying to find a job and find your way in life. And so there was a long period of time where I wasn't collecting cards. And recent, it's been kind of a recent emergence back into it, but it's almost, while the hobby is certainly different from the market dynamics, the products, the way it all works, it's almost in a way like I've never left coming back in. So I obviously wish I was, still collecting back in 2003 and I had stacks of LeBron James Topps Chrome rookie cards. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So I feel in a way I'm learning, playing a little catch up, and also trying to pave my own path.
So what got you back into it? Was there something that happened that got you back into being an active card collector?
Yeah, so it was actually funny. So I mentioned I was a wrestling figure collector, and I was involved in a wrestling figure Facebook community group. So there's a podcast, a major wrestling figure podcast. They have a Facebook group. It's full of people that are super passionate about wrestling. Inevitably, conversations around other things outside of figures happened. People started buying wrestling cards and Topps products and hosting breaks. And I just was so fascinated by it. And I was like, man, cards, I haven't thought about cards in a long time. And I started joining these breaks for these wrestling cards. And then I started looking at vintage wrestling cards. And then I thought to myself, I spend all this time, I'm a huge football, huge basketball fan. And I spend all these time researching fantasy sports while I'm playing. I wonder how this applies to the sports card market. So that's when I started diving into basketball. And then quickly, there was the Zion hype. And so it was kind of all of these things culminating into one thing that one day I just dove in and have not looked back. And I'm having more fun than ever.
Awesome. What would you say you enjoy most about the hobby right now?
Meeting people. I think it's so fun to meet people, and everyone's got their own experience and take on the hobby. And I find there's experts in everything, whether it's a specific player, whether it's a specific sport, product, you name it, buying, selling. And so I really gravitate towards finding these people online, sliding into their DMs, trying to build a relationship with them and sharing information. And I feel like my hope is that there are more people in the hobby that aren't trying to do it on their own and aren't isolating themselves, because it's amazing, like how there are so many subject matter experts in this hobby, and reaching out to them, learning, and just leaning on people. That to me is like really, really powerful. And we've got all of these communication channels at our disposal to do it. So I think opportunity there is endless. And that's really what gets me excited about doing it every day.
So at what point did you decide to start making content?
So I make content for a living. So I lead a marketing team in that for a software product in the K-12 market. And so part of our evolution in terms of the content we were creating was, let's create a podcast, talk to people in our industry. It'll help us streamline content by, we've got pillar content through the podcast, and then we can start creating micro pieces of content off that. It's almost in a way, if you study Gary Vee and you study like Gary Vee's content model, what we were trying to do is similar. Obviously, we're not doing it at the level of Gary Vee, but just a lightweight version of that. And so we started doing it. It started working, and then COVID happened. And I, just one day left the office back, and I was doing it. And I said to myself, I was like, I'm stuck at home. I'm really passionate about several different topics and things that get me excited. Like, I'm learning so much about sports cards on the fly. I'm meeting people. This is a great new experience. I have thoughts and opinions. Why don't I take what I'm doing professionally, turn it into a podcast, and just share the experiences that I'm going through in real time and see if people want to listen? Because I know I'm not the only person who's coming back into the hobby with all of these observations, questions. And that's really how it generated. And the amazing part on the back end of it is I was right. There are so many people that are of my mindset, of my age, that are back in the hobby because of the nostalgic feels of ripping packs, and also see the business opportunities with investing in slabs, watching the players perform. And so it was like kind of this culmination of experiences that I had, that I turned it into just trying something. And it's gotten some legs over the last several months. And I'm really fortunate for it. And I say this a lot to just my audience when I'm talking with them, but it's their engagement is what really fuels me and keeps me going. The amount of direct messages I get with questions or people saying I relate to these experiences is really encouraging. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm doing it. So it was really just kind of like a passion project, right time. The market was right. And I just said, let's do this. And I really haven't looked back. And it's turned into a really fun thing for me. And I see just all this opportunity on the other side of it, of like, where can I eventually take this?
If someone listens to like 30 seconds of your podcast, they can't help but notice that you are full of energy. Where does this come from? It can't all be from Bang Energy Drink.
Yeah, no, it isn't. I'm trying to cut back a little bit on the Bang. I got coffee with me this morning, but I think it's just, we're all wired in a specific way. And for whatever reason, the way I'm wired is the things that I'm super passionate about, I like turn it up to like 12. And it's not a front or it's not a gimmick. It's just kind of who I am. And personality type, I like to be around people that have similar passions of me. And I like to talk to people that have similar passions to me. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm excited because I'm learning so much. I'm sharing with people and people are engaging with me, and all of that together just motivates me and gets me hyped in the morning. And I guess like just as a part of my nature, being a marketer, you're creating hype and you're promoting and you're excited. And I had always thought, like, when I got into marketing, like my personality type and skill set it really aligns with that, because I'm more excited than not. And it definitely has its benefits and it has its drawbacks. But I think in terms of jumping on a show and doing a 60-minute solo program, I will say I am exhausted after I do those, and I try to do all of those in one take just because I want it to be authentic and real. But yeah, I think my personality type makes for a good podcast. But I will say I do get really drained and tired after doing all of that talking.
You talk a lot about looking for opportunities to go left when everyone else is going right. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think, with the hobby, it's inevitable that new people are coming in every day, and there's a lot of people talking about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And a lot of people are following a specific direction of like, buy these cards or these players are hot. Like, and to me, like, first and foremost, I think you should buy what you like and you should buy what you're passionate about. And first of all, I think you should be passionate about sports, and that makes for good operating in the hobby. But I think, like, in terms of going left, like, if there's business opportunity with this, like, what you want to do is you want to anticipate what's happening and what's not on trend now. So, like, for me, like, turning left when the market's going right is like the NBA playoffs, or the bubble is happening. Everyone is focused on Luca. Everyone's focused on Giannis and all these player performances and making money off of that. Well, that's when I'm taking the time and I'm researching the NFL market and cards, and spending time thinking about wide receivers and running backs who might historically not been seen as valuable in the card market. However, with new people entering and with the DFS lines blurring between cards, I do anticipate more people coming in and more people wanting to buy up these players if they have good games on Sunday. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Just trying to do what's not on trend, and do first of all, do what you like, and then second of all, don't necessarily focus all your energy of what's on trend, because you're going to kind of just get lost in that money pit of all these prices being high. But like, look the other way. Look at opportunities, whether it's wrestling, Pokemon, football, baseball, racing, whatever it is. Find opportunities that most of the market isn't focused on, and try to anticipate some trends that are coming.
So it's kind of like going off of what is the most popular current trend, as well as maybe bucking some of that conventional wisdom that exists in the hobby. Do you think there's still a place for some of that conventional wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think there is a place for the conventional wisdom. I think there's a place for everything. And I think, there's this dynamic of that I see so often too, with just like the personality types and the personas, where you got these 30-year long-term collectors, you got people that hobby shop owners that have, bought product to flip it. You've got breakers coming in, you've got sports card investors, you've got collectors, and everyone's got their own like MOs and why they're in the hobby. And like, I think everyone, while it might seem different to some people that might have been around for a while, I think conventional wisdom, definitely there's always a place, but I think like everyone too should just, you know, keep an open mind. That's one thing I've learned this year, just in the state of being in COVID, is like, let's just have an open mind and let everyone, like, let's hear what other people are saying. And I think that holds true with the hobby, especially as things are changing. Like, have an open mind, try to listen, and adapt, because I think the more people that are in the hobby, the more fun we'll eventually have. It's just about being patient and listening to what everyone's up to. I'm learning a ton by trying to take that mentality to heart on a regular basis.
Yeah, I like and agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I think that makes a lot of sense. The thing that I think about a lot, that I'm challenged with sometimes to make full sense of when we think about where things are going, is that we're in such a unique time in the hobby right now, where for the most part the entire market is going up and to the right.
Mhm.
And common sense would say it's not always going to stay this way. The market is not going to always increase at the rate that we're seeing it increase at. And that at some point it will normalize a little bit. And maybe at that point, some of the conventional wisdom that's based on 2 or 3 decades worth of experience will come back into play. But at the same time, like you said, looking for those things that are currently bucking the trends can lead to additional profits, can lead to you finding new ways to enjoy the hobby that you may not have pursued in the past. And finding that balance is one of the things that I know I'm challenged with myself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like what I've been trying to do is, yes, I think the hobby's probably changed forever. I think it will not always be going up at the pace and direction it is. I think for me, knowing that, I in turn thinking about the cards that I buy, I think I try to attach myself to specific players in the sports that I like and collect and invest them in them. So no matter what happens with the hobby, I'll still be satisfied because I've got pieces of those players that I really appreciate and like. And then I think drilling down one level, it's, from a mitigating risk on the market maybe going down a little bit, I'm finding myself definitely more focused on some of the parallel serial number cards, stuff that has some scarcity to it, as opposed to like those base cards that everyone wants their PSA 10 in rookies, whether it's Prism or Topps Chrome, whatever it is. And so that's kind of been my focus and mentality lately, is offloading some of the base slabbed base stuff or raw base stuff that I have, and try to get some monies so then I can invest in some serial number parallels, just in, because I think regardless of anything happening, those limited numbered cards, those limited print run, those will always hold some higher value as opposed to some of the stuff that, I mean, if you look at just the Luka PSA 10 base, the amount of slabbed cards that are out there, it's crazy. There's like 12,000 right now, and that's like a $2,000 card. So at some point, that seems like that's going to be out of whack and out of balance. Maybe not, but I think I'm always looking for ways just to mitigate risk along the way, while also putting money into players of guys that I really appreciate as players.
So, what would you say is your overarching vision for your future in the hobby? You grow your collection, generate income as a side hustle, something completely different from that? What would you say is your kind of overarching goal?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's there's two parts to it. So there's like the stacking slabs part, and then there's like my personal collecting component to it. So I think for me, it's one of the things that I appreciate from listening to you, because you've got a really smart mind when it comes to this type of thing. But one thing I'm aspiring to do is not take money out of my paycheck in order to buy cards that I want. I think you have so many helpful tips and ideas on how to do that. And I think it's just implementing those in my day to day. And I'm getting there. Like last time we talked, I'm in a much better spot than I was. So I want to keep that going. So making sure I'm selling, doing a lot of selling to make sure that I have monies that I'm not taking out of my paycheck to put towards some big cards that I really like. So there's that. So I'm evolving my personal collecting process, which is super fun and dynamic, and that can keep me busy in and of itself. But then there's the stacking slab side of like, what do you want to do with this eventually? Like, what do you try to do? And I'm in the mode right now that I don't have a clear cut path and answer, but every day I do it more, the vision is becoming more clear. Like, and I'm very transparent with my audience and tell them, like, I'm not the type of guy that one day I'm going to just like tell all right, now there's going to be this new program I have, and you're all going to have to pay $9.99 a month to be a part of it. Like, that's not really what I'm about. I don't really want to monetize and capitalize off my audience. It's more, I want to find and identify a place where my skill set and my knowledge on the card market, sports, and just being a content creator fits and applies in some way in this industry, whether that's, hey, there's a new media outlet that wants to talk sports cards, they've heard Stacking Slabs, it's a good fit from a brand perspective, or hey, you have a certain demographic of people that are listening to your show on a regular basis, we're a company that sells X product and we're trying to get into that. What would a sponsorship opportunity look like between Stacking Slabs and our product? So that's really where my mindset is and mentality. But I'm ambitious, but I'm also I try to manage my patience. So I'm right now, my primary focus with the me and the hobby is evolving my process. And then on the content side, it's really, I'm focused on creating trust with my audience and building audience right now. I've only been doing this since March. It's growing at a very nice pace, and I've got a really good audience that listens to the show every week and gives me feedback. I'm really focused on continuing that momentum there right now and for the rest of the year.
Very cool. So where can people find you?
People can find me across all social channels at Stacking Slabs. primary Instagram appears to be the primary way people are engaging with me. Twitter, I'm active, and then even on TikTok. And obviously Mike and I have a little bit of history there. I've been off the TikTok game a little bit recently. I need to spend more time. How's TikTok going for you?
It's I've been off a little bit too. This whole potential sale shutdown thing, it really like threw me for a loop. I know it shouldn't have. I know it shouldn't have necessarily impacted my creation, but I took probably a 10-day to 2-week kind of hiatus where I think I only put up one or two videos. I put up one yesterday with the first day of the shop being open, but yeah, I've slowed down a little bit too. Just with all of the uncertainty of what the future was, but it really shouldn't. I should keep going strong until the very bitter end, if that's the way things are going
Right.
to go. But yeah, it's been fun. It's still a lot of fun. There's still people watching videos. I passed the million view part on my
There you
Sloppy
go.
Turtles video, and so I now have a million view TikTok video. What's our duet up to?
It's been several weeks since I looked at it. Where were we at? Were we at 200,000? Where were we at last time we spoke?
I know it was well over 100,000.
100,000. Yeah, I think last time we talked, it was like 100, or last time I looked, which was maybe a few weeks ago, it was like maybe 129,000, which is good and sustainable. I don't know if we're still at the top of the page or not. I'll have to go back and look, but that's still an all timer. People still like slide in. I still get likes about that on that regularly, so it's definitely a hit in the hobby TikTok community.
Yeah, so for the listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, I had made the video that many of you had seen, kind of recounting the Mike Trout Project 2020 mail truck fire incident. And Brett did a duet video with his facial reactions to me telling that story. And for whatever reason, that duet video caught fire at a much higher level than the actual video of me telling the story. And so it was kind of a fun little thing that we had there on TikTok.
Yeah, and I don't know if we had interacted before that. I had known you just from listening to your podcast and seeing you on other people's podcasts, but it was once that started to hit, that's when I reached out to you and we spoke. And so I'm glad TikTok kind of brought us together.
That's right. If nothing else, TikTok brought us together.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks again, Brett, for joining me for the show today.
Absolutely. Let's do it again. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Talk to you soon.